It is 6:30. I am Jeff Huff, and this is the meeting of the West Zoning Board for February. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Jeff Huff,
Present.
Craig Connell,
Present.
John DeGrand is absent, Terry Atwell,
Here.
Donna Getzman,
Present.
Bob Paulson is joining us on Zoom, and Roger Spears.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much. Could you read the statement of the hybrid in person?
This meeting is now being recorded in the board hearing room with zoning board members attending in person. There is also an option for virtual attendance on Zoom webinar. For Zoom participants wishing to speak, please use the raise hand function in the Zoom app at the start of the agenda item on which you desire to comment. Comments will be received from in-person attendees first, followed by Zoom participants. When it is your turn to speak, the moderator will recognize you by the name or phone number used to join the Zoom webinar. Please state your name and the city and state where you reside for the record, followed by your comments. All public speakers will be limited to 3 minutes unless the chair designates a different time period. If you have trouble with Zoom, please call 913-715-9666. Board members, staff, and presenters, please state your name every time you begin talking, and please speak into the microphone so that people attending via Zoom can hear you and your comments can be transcribed for the record. This is a public meeting. We are presenting live and recording the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. On the agenda items, is there anything we need to add, delete, revise, or approve on the present agenda? Looks like we're good there. Disclosure of conflicts of interests?
None.
None. And the disclosure of external contacts or discussions?
None.
The only thing that I'm going to say is disclosure. I do sit on a roundtable committee for the Johnson County Airport. There's nothing, no conflict, but I just wanted to make that known that I do sit on that. So the approval of the minutes, can I get a motion?
Donna Getzman, I move to approve the minutes from January 17th of 2024.
Roger Spears, I'll second.
All of those that approve the board minutes, can we say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. So it appears that those pass. Okay, thank you very much. If we could at this time have the board reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sean Penley, County Planning Staff. First, I wanted to introduce a couple of new staff members before I get into the board reports. First, we have our newest planner, Zoe Brown, who is here at the table. She will be presenting a case here, this item A on the agenda. We're very happy to have her join our staff. She's finishing her master's degree in planning at KU, and so she just started. So this semester, while she's finishing that work, she's working part-time for us, but this is her first case, and we're glad to have her presenting, and then we'll have her join us full-time starting in June or maybe May, possibly. So we're really excited to have her. Also, we wanted to introduce Elizabeth Henderson, our new zoning assistant. She's working with Melissa Colasanto tonight and setting up for the meeting. And Elizabeth will become the new secretary for the zoning boards. So she'll be signing and certifying the plats when we get those in for the chair's signatures for zoning boards, and then attending these meetings along with, or maybe Melissa or Elizabeth will be trading time here, but they will be coordinating the meetings and the secretary. So we wanted to introduce Elizabeth and thank her as well for being here. So for the board reports, I wanted to mention the Board of County Commissioners on February 15th approved the conditional use permit application, which was recommended by this board at the last meeting in January. That was for the soil excavation operation, if you recall, for the two properties at 151st and Edgerton Road, the Finley properties. So the zoning board did recommend approval of that CUP with revised stipulations. The board on the meeting on February 15th did approve that application with the stipulations as recommended by the zoning board. There were a lot of questions about that since there were so many public comments and some concerns regarding the activity. The applicant did also provide additional information prior to that meeting to update staff and the board on where they were with the activity. They had stopped operation on that site until they got the approval. and I believe they resumed work this week following approval last week by the BOCC. They will be doing work on that site. In the interim, it's a short phase. They plan to finish out doing work for closing the landfill at the Sunflower property. That is expected to be completed by April 1st. They will, as we talked about and as the board recommended, they will be notifying staff prior to any future operations. So they still got their approval with a 5-year term as recommended by the zoning board. So it's a 5-year term, but they kind of expect to be reducing operations once they finish the closure in the landfill, but they'll still have the opportunity to move forward. Any updates, though, we'll provide that. We do we're coordinating staff inspection. So we'll follow through on all that, and we'll update the board if there are any other updates on that site. That was the only actions for the Board of County Commissioners. And then the Planning Commission, there was a meeting on January 23rd. For that meeting, it was fairly short. There was just a year in review for all the projects that were considered by the Planning Commission and the zoning boards in 2023. We gave an update on that. We also provided an update for upcoming projects for the Planning Commission. We're anticipating starting a major update to the zoning and subdivision regulations this year. We're going to be working with a consultant. We have not identified a consultant yet, but staff will be working with them once they are identified, and we'll be making some updates to the zoning and subdivision regulations. And there will be a steering committee formed that has not been established yet, but that will be coming up. So we'll have more information to provide when we do have an update, and there's been an action on that, but we just wanted to let everyone know about that preliminary work. So that's it for the board reports. Happy to answer any questions.
Does not appear to be any questions. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. So let's proceed to the business before the board. First one is application number W24-371-FDPGA. Final Development Plan, New Century Commerce Center, generally located at 167th Street and Clare Road. If we could at this time, get the presentation from staff.
All right. Good evening. The application I have for you tonight is W24-371-FDP for Phase 2 infrastructure at New Century Commerce Center. This application is for a final development plan located at 167th and Clare Road on 300 acres. The site is zoned Planned Employment Center Logistics Park, and the land is currently vacant. The proposed development is intended to serve warehouse, distribution, and light industrial activities, and staff recommends approval of this FDP subject to the stipulations and revisions in the report. Here's an aerial of the site showing Phase 1 in green, which was approved in 2021, in relation to Phase 2 outlined in red. This application is for infrastructure improvements only. So the proposed improvements for this project include mass grading, water main lines, sanitary sewer lines, storm sewer and drainage, and street improvements. There are no buildings being proposed at this time, and final development plans for future buildings will require separate applications and county approval. This is the general layout of the site here. You can see the proposed sanitary sewer, storm sewer, water main, and road improvements. And there should be a larger version of this in the staff report and the packet. For water service, approximately 13,900 feet of 12-inch water main will be installed on the site. Rural Water District Number 7 can supplement water as necessary for future phases of the development. Service agreements for that are in the final stages of approval. And for the overall development, a water study was finalized and determined to have adequate water service for the project area. For sanitary sewer, approximately 5,900 feet of new sanitary sewer main will be installed west from Clare Road to John Glenn Parkway, running north to 165th Street. And the full design and plans for sewer will be submitted to Johnson County Wastewater for permit and approval. For street improvements, there are going to be 4 proposed streets that are shown on the plan. These are John Glenn Parkway, Flightline Drive, 165th Street, and 167th Street. And the total length of these improvements is roughly 2 miles. and any necessary traffic improvements will be identified during the traffic analysis associated with each final development plan for any new buildings. Storm sewer and drainage, this is last. The proposed drainage systems for this phase align with the preliminary drainage study and existing patterns of drainage. And detention design for 3 facilities is included in a final drainage study accompanying this project. So the applicant requested a few revisions to the stipulations in the staff report, and these are the revisions that staff recommends. For number 2, we changed the word submitted to the word approved, clarifying that the permit must be approved before land disturbance occurs. For number 3, we changed the language about the acceptance of public streets from construction to acceptance. For number 9, we wanted to clarify the timing of the stormwater study related to the FDPs for infrastructure versus buildings. And lastly, for 14 and 15, the applicant requested that these stipulations be removed, and staff agreed. Here's the revised motion. This is slightly different than what is in your staff report to reflect those revisions to the stipulations. And the applicant is here for questions as well as airport. That's all I've got.
Any questions from the board? Nothing. I'm just curious. That's just me. But anyway, on the roads, so those will be heavy traffic items. Is that something, obviously, it's probably in there. I just didn't see it as far as type of roads and, preparing for the heavier trucks and traffic like that. Is that, I'm sure that's been considered.
Mr. Chairman, Sean Penley, planning staff, I can address that. This final development plan has more of a kind of a preliminary layout for the plans in terms of the location of the improvements of what will be provided in terms of roads and infrastructure with water and sewer. The details for the design and the full specs on the roads will be submitted with a building permit application, and the applicant's working on that now. So that will require a separate permit, which will have the more details on those. But yes, they're absolutely built to a high standard for collector roads, similar to phase 1. They'll be the same types of roads that'll meet all and exceed all county requirements, actually. But those details will be provided with the building permit for those roads.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Does not appear to be any more questions of staff, so thank you very much.
Thank
I don't know that we're required to have any presentations for the public, but does anybody from airport want to say anything, or are you? I wasn't going to let you off the hook that easy.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening to all of you. You did mention airport, and yes, happy to be here representing the airport. Brian Johnson, Executive Director for New Century and Johnson County Executive Airports. This is a very meaningful project, and all of you are very aware of that, as well as the staff that have been working closely on this project for actually multiple years. We've been through phase 1. You have more intimately than I have. But really, this sets the stage, and I think that's what's really, really important here, is this is setting the stage for more opportunity, not for just the airport, but for Johnson County and the citizens of Johnson County. And when you think about financial self-sustainability and how valuable that is to us as an enterprise department, that these rates and charges that we establish, these leases, are the backbone of not only what we do now, but our future. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for all of you. I'm grateful for Van Trust, for Olson, the other staff that are in here, and the good work you're doing. And the future is bright.
Perfect. Any questions from the board?
Roger Spears, I have just one kind of a clarification. When you look at the drawings, the crosshatched area of phase 2 overshadows an extension of the runway to the southeast that I believe is what the airport refers to as the abandoned runway from long ago. That was a runway that the Navy used, is it not?
It sure is. You know your history quite well. Yeah, that 1942, U.S. Naval Air Station there had 3 different runways, and that has been partially removed over the years. And actually, I think it's our some department in the county I know utilizes a small section of that for driver's training. But yes, that'll eventually, that's part of this removal. And again, taking green pastures and turning them into vertical structures is a pretty exciting thing.
Thank you.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. So,
This is Bob Paulson. Can you hear
Yes.
me? Question similar to yours, Jeff, on more curiosity than anything else. Is this project going to cause any road closures that are normally open during its construction?
Mr. Chairman, this is Sean Penley, Plan Staff. To answer Mr. Paulson's question, I think there are no planned road closures necessary for this phase 2 infrastructure, according to airport staff, from what I indicate. And that would make sense because they're working right now in phase 1 and all the roads are open. There may be some restricted areas when you actually get into a particular site, but they indicate there's no plans for road closures with this phase 2 infrastructure.
Question,
Thank you.
I guess. Craig Connell. Security of the airport, I don't know if this airport is like KCI or something. Is there a big cyclone fence around it or something for security? And will this development change where that fence needs to be and that sort of thing, or?
Yeah, great. Actually, really, really good question. In fact, that's one thing since I've arrived, airport staff we've been fortunate. We've been a recipient of a couple KDOT aviation grants to build fence and put in gates. So the good news is this is what we call non-aviation. So it's outside the fence. So it won't impact the fence or airport operations at all.
all right. Any other questions? No? And there are no other public comments, nobody online or have signed up?
No.
Okay, perfect. So we can close the public comments. No further discussion among the board. So if we could get the recommendation.
Roger Spears, I move to recommend approval of application number W24-371-FDP for final development plan for infrastructure improvements only for phase 2 of the New Century Commerce Center East Area Plan for the reasons and stipulations recommended by staff, with revisions to stipulations number 2, 3, 9, 14, and 15 as noted by staff, subject to the recommended stipulations and for the reasons outlined in the staff report.
Terry Atwell, second.
Have a vote?
Yes. Jeff Huff,
Aye.
Craig Connell,
Aye.
Terry Atwell,
Aye.
Donna Getzman,
Aye.
Bob Paulson.
Aye.
Thank you. And Roger Spears.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
And then the county commission, if you could tell us when the meeting date and location?
Yes, so the applicant has requested to push the meeting back a month. So they're looking at the April 18th date for BOCC.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. All right. Next order of business, application number W24-370-SP, special permit, DeSoto Sewer Pump Station, north of K10 Highway and east side of Edgerton Road. We could have the staff presentation.
Sure, thank you. Good evening. Diane Wicklund, Planning Department. Just to note, I did put out a handout at each of your chairs with some revised stipulations, which we'll talk about in a minute here. So the applicant here is BHC Engineering on behalf of the city of DeSoto, Kansas, obviously. And the landowners are Ron and Lisa Vandenberg Trust. So the existing land use on the property is agricultural, and the zoning is RN2 Residential Neighborhood 2 District. The existing improvements, there are none. The property is vacant currently. And the site size is 0.44 acres. for the pump station site, and the parent parcel is 9.18 acres in size. And so just quickly, you can see here the vicinity map. The subject property is located just north of K10 and on the east side of Edgerton Road. And so the applicant, on behalf of the city of DeSoto, is requesting approval of a special permit to construct a sewer pump station to serve this area for current and future development for the city. The property is located in the unincorporated part of the county. However, the pump station will be operated by DeSoto, and the property is located in the city's sewer service area. So just a kind of a reminder, these special permits are part of our zoning code, and they kind of allow, and they're specifically for kind of government public facilities, but also public utilities, such as a sewer pump station. And so it's the same process as the conditional use permits, except however, the difference is that a special permit receives an indefinite term. So if you'll remember, some of the CUPs maybe that you've heard so far have a term. So the special permits do not have a term. And that's kind of by design, because these are really facilities that benefit the public. So we did review kind of minimum infrastructure guidelines for special permits, and really the infrastructure that's needed for this facility it is there and sufficient. The facility does have nearby infrastructure for fire protection and has met the requirements set forth by Johnson County Public Works. The application, as you could read through the staff report, does also meet the development and performance standards for the special permits per Article 33. And I'll can kind of go through these graphics here real quick. So this is an aerial view of the surrounding area. You can see the subject properties outlined in blue. This is a kind of close-up aerial view of the subject property again. In that red square is not to scale, but that's just kind of showing the location of the sewer pump station. So it's kind of at the front, at the western part of the property. And then here's the site plan, kind of showing the driveway entrance into the facility, showing the fencing around the property, shows the odor control tank, the generator, transformer, kind of just the layout of the facility there. This is the lighting plan. So if you can see kind of these three circles here, and Edgerton Road will be down here at the bottom of the screen. These three circles here, 1, 2, and 3, are proposed light poles that'll be 16 feet tall. And that's fine. And then this sheet, so up at the kind of top left-hand corner, shows the structure that's going to be kind of they call it the equipment shelter. So there'll be some equipment underneath there, but that'll be kind of what's covering the equipment. And then there'll be some lighting that's kind of inside on the ceiling of that shelter building. And then next to the right just shows what the retaining wall will look like. That retaining wall is going to be kind of on the east end back of the facility site. And then down here on the left is just a picture of the 7-foot tall kind of solid composite fence. That's going to be kind of the screening for the facility. That's going to go along the west property line, and the south property line are kind of the fenced in area. And so the west line is Edgerton Road. So it'll screen kind of view from street view from Edgerton, and then also on the south side. And then on the north And east sides will just be chain link fence. And so that's just a picture of what that will look like. And then this final picture is the odor control tank. That's going to be 7 feet tall, but just kind of a picture of what that will look like. And then here's kind of a cross section, kind of looking from Edgerton Road. And so, so what you can see is just, so here's Edgerton Road here where my arrow is. And then this dark line is just the finished grade line. And so you'll see here, right here is where that 7-foot composite fence will be. So you'll be looking at that. Next thing you'll see then is the, that odor control tank. And then next to it is that equipment shelter building that I showed, which I think will be 10 feet tall. So that's just kind of gives you a good sense of what you'll be seeing, and probably maybe be seeing the tops of that tank and that shelter building, but minimal view from the street. So that's it in terms of graphics. We also do a golden review with special permits. And so with that review and the staff report, we did find that this proposed use is consistent with the zoning and surrounding uses of nearby properties, that it would be compatible with the character of the neighborhood. And also that there would be minimal, if any, detrimental effects to nearby parcels, and that there really is, there would be no gain to the public, but by denying the request. And in fact, almost kind of the opposite. This pump station will be able to help support new and future development in the area. Therefore, planning staff is recommending approval of the special permit for the pump station for City of DeSoto with those following stipulations that are on page 13 and 14 of the staff report. However, staff is recommending a couple of revisions to the stipulations. The first one is that stipulation number 2, and we're just wanting to add the language in the yellow, which is really just talking about that the light fixtures shall be kind of cut off design, prevent glare, but that they shall not exceed that 3,000 K LED. And then the second revision, and so just kind of an update on that stipulation. So the applicant did submit a site distance study, a revised one to Public Works. And over the last week, they have reviewed and accepted that site distance study. So there's no site distance issues with that proposed driveway entrance. However, because it is close to, close to that ramp for K10, we do want that entrance to be approved by KDOT prior to issuance of the building permit. There have already been conversations with KDOT, and I think there's some initial feedback that there really probably are not any issues with that. And I think that's it. So this is kind of a revised motion when the board gets to that point that just kind of includes those revisions. And the applicant's also here for questions, and I think I'll stop there.
Any questions from the board?
I have several questions, but I think it's probably better for the applicant.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Very good. Thank you. And then the applicant, does it have a presentation?
Good evening, Randy Gorton, BHC Engineer Surveyors, 7101 College Boulevard, Oakland Park, Kansas. Happy to answer whatever questions you've got. Diane did a great job of summarizing the project, kind of the highlights, the main parts. So with that, please fire away.
Okay, thanks. Craig Connell. My first question is, by the way, I live about 1.5 miles from this location, so I'm familiar with all the piping being put in the ground and roads being tore up and all that for the Flint development stuff. For my first question is, I'm surprised there's no consideration for trees around this to help shield from K-10 and maybe from the neighbor to the north. Is that something that could be added to the project?
So I know this was addressed in the staff report. There's obviously a fair number of trees already in place. What is proposed is to go ahead and clear the area we need to for the new pump station, and try and disturb as few of the trees as we can otherwise, so that we will continue to have trees between this site and the north, and the east, and there should be a belt of trees along the edge of the K-10 right of way to help shield this from the south as well. So in terms of new plantings, that was not, that never came up as a specific requirement, a point of condition prior to tonight.
Okay, yeah, I don't think between K-10 and the site, there's much for trees, frankly. To the east and south, or north, I agree, there's trees there already, but to the south, there's not much.
Okay.
Second question is, I think there's like with, if I can remember right, there's like 3 neighbors within probably 1/8 of a mile or less from this. How does the odor control system work? How will they not smell this thing when it's running?
Well, and that's exactly the point of why the city went ahead and chose to install an odor control system. Over time, right, as more businesses, homes start sending flow to this location, right, we're gonna have to deal with that. But what the city's process is to use chemical added into the holding basin while the influent, right, is waiting to get pumped out and then to the city's treatment plant. It's added into that to neutralize, right, the sulfurous compounds, what we smell and we think of as unpleasant, to control that very thing. And so once you get that, plus the distance away as just general mixing, this is, for a lot of communities, this is a fairly advanced and sophisticated treatment that they want built in from the beginning. So from an odor perspective, this should pretty well take care of it going forward. And the city has set this up from the beginning so it can be expanded as growth happens in DeSoto and everybody else tying into sewers out here.
Yeah, so you say it's a chemical addition, is it something that's automated, or somebody has to go out there and manually throw some in every once in a while, or how does that, how
No,
does it
it's-
control it, in other
It's
words?
an automatic metered system. The only maintenance is really just go back out and restock chemical, the tank's there for that purpose, so that staff doesn't have to be out there every day. They don't have to, right, turn a valve, hit a button.
Okay, okay, great. Let's see, I had one other question. Escapes me, I'll think of it.
This is Jeff Huff. As far as odor long-term, is there a monitoring system? May not have heard. Is there a way to evaluate and address that? Or do you wait for public feedback, or what does that look like?
And this, right, some of this is how the city chooses to do operations on their systems. In general, they have a pretty good idea based on the flow every day that's coming into the system that they're having to pump, right, at what rates they should inject, and then they adjust from there. And some of that is even seasonal, right? Summertime is very much, right, not quite the same consideration as wintertime, but they have to manage that on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes it's just them visiting the site. The intent is staff should be there a few times a week, perhaps. They don't need to be there full time. Certainly, they will pay close attention to comments from the public. And again, as development occurs, that would be, right, a lot more people providing feedback if there really is a problem. But that's a common facet of trying to take care of wastewater treatment and pumping.
Thank you.
I remember my question, Craig Connell again. So I noticed on Diane's presentation, she talked about the fencing and the borders around the site. I'm just curious why the north fence isn't also a composite fence to match the other 3 sides.
And the main reason was because there are existing trees along the north side of where the site will be. Those will remain. We don't need to disturb those. And so we will get better screening for property owners to the north with mature trees rather than a 7-foot fence.
Okay, so it's just a cost consideration, basically.
And I
Like
think
one
it's
fence
a,
versus a
it's a
composite fence.
practicality, right? What are we trying to accomplish? I think the trees are doing a great job and we don't want to take them out. So I think the trees will take care of it. So there's really not a need to put in composite fence on that side.
Okay.
And I will say that potentially someday the city may need to expand and we've talked about that potentially, and that's why the site is the size that it is. So again, not that that is not part of the permit, but it's more of a recognition that the area is growing. The city wants to take that into consideration for the public dollars being invested.
All right, thank you
Thank you.
very much. As far as opening up for public comments, is there anybody that would like to make any comments or address the board? Does not look like it.
Chair, we have one person on Zoom that would like to speak. So Catherine, I will go ahead and unmute your microphone. And please go ahead with your comments.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. My name is Catherine Diaz. I am a resident of DeSoto, Kansas. And so I am that neighbor just north of the location where the sewer pump station is going on. I am on 9155 Edgerton Road. So of course, this kind of affects me and my family directly, and I am curious to get more information about this, specifically to if it will affect my home directly. Of course, I have 3 children, so I want to make sure, what's the best for them in the situation. I know that it was mentioned that later on with future developments, with more housing and things like that, will it affect, my property and my living space? I just moved here in 2021, very happy with the area. But of course, this is a concern to me specifically as a mother.
Thank you, Catherine.
Question for Catherine.
Yes, we have a question for Catherine from the board.
Catherine, it's Craig Connell. Has anybody ever talked to you about this substation from DeSoto or from the designers?
No, I never received anything from anyone. The only reason that I am here is because there was a sign posted by the road that said that there was a public meeting. We've heard word about it. We have heard word about it, but my husband and I were never contacted directly from the city of DeSoto, which is very upsetting. Being a journalist myself, I never heard anything about that. So we were just kind of waiting until we saw development and trucks already kind of lining up and just kind of moving forward with the development. And of course, my main concern is the odor control, right? Now and in the future, as the comment that was made.
Yeah, it's Craig Connell again. I'm surprised or distressed about that myself because I thought there was some sort of notification for some distance for zoning changes and things like that.
Directly, because I am here, I didn't receive anything, maybe in a general, like maybe newsletter from the city. But of course, nobody came to me, any city official came to us directly or a letter or anything like that. I didn't receive anything that I'm aware of course, that I'm aware of.
So Chairman, this is Diane Wicklund, Planning Department. Kind of also part of this whole public hearing process is that landowners within 1,000 feet do also receive a certified property owner letter that just, invites them to this public hearing meeting and, kind of gives a phone number and email if you want to call in for more information. She should have received that. I'm not sure if she did or didn't. It is certified mailing, so you do have to like go pick it up and sign for it. And then the sign is the other notice. So should have received the letter. She saw the sign. And now that's just kind of the public notice requirements set forth in state statute. Now, there's really no requirement for the applicant or the city to contact neighbors directly. There's no requirements for that, but
This is Jeff Huff. Is that because this is unincorporated and she may be an incorporated, that doesn't make any difference. The regular or the statutes are still the same?
Mr. Chairman, Sean Penley, planning staff, no, all properties within 1,000 feet of a subject application in the county will receive it regardless of whether they're in the county or in the city. And as Diane mentioned, since this is certified mail, it is possible that if no one was home at the time of the delivery, they could have been left a message to say to pick up a certified mailing. It's possible that they did not receive it. But certainly we can go back and check that too to confirm. But generally, the county mails out those notices with the list of property owners received by the applicant. So they had the list of all properties within 1,000 feet. We did send out the notice for this application. So it's not always a guarantee that everybody's going to get their certified mail before the hearing, but the mailing did go out to all those properties.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Terry Atwell, and I don't want to sound like ignorant here, but I want to go back to the smell and how you're going to control that by chemicals. The chemicals then will omit a smell. It'll just cover up the sewage smell. I just know because I live on the north side of a road, and in the summer when the winds come from the south, everything's going to blow to Miss Diaz's property. And I wouldn't want to have that smell, and I know nothing about a pumping station. So I want to make sure that if it's omitting a smell, then is that going to be safe for inhalation from these 3 kids?
Understood. Yep. And Randy Gordon, BHC. The odor control systems the city wants to use, they're not there to mask the odor, right, as a, just a air freshener. The intent is that they actually chemically neutralize the things that are emitted at times from the sewage, right, that we smell and go, that's very unpleasant. But the intent is to change that, address it chemically rather than just try to cover it up. Because I think you've already identified why that's generally probably not going to be effective all the time.
Right. So I just want to make sure that it's not masking one smell for another. So,
Yeah, this is to neutralize, right, to change the chemical that smells bad versus, just try to overpower it with a different smell.
okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Roger Spears, could you perhaps just give a high level, summary level of what this station does to maybe help the person that lives nearby understand the project a little bit? And I mean, it's not a treatment plant of any kind.
True. Yep. Yeah, Randy Gordon, BHC. So this is a pumping station. And so, right, typically whenever you flush your toilet and faucets run in your house, everything flows by gravity out of your house and eventually gets collected and then treated by whatever facility, right, is serving your home or your business. So we're constrained by terrain, right? Wherever the low spot, it's going to fall, just like when the rain falls. That's where this just naturally wants to flow. When you get a big enough area, and DeSoto is certainly growing, you get to areas where it's lower than the treatment plant, so we have to pump it back over the ridge to get it so we can treat it properly. That's what this facility is. It's so that sewage that's collected from customers, so the residents and the businesses in this particular drainage watershed, if you think about it that way, where everything kind of collects, is so we can pump it over and get it into the city's wastewater treatment plant so it can be treated to meet state and EPA regulations for that kind of operation.
This is Jeff Huff. So the sewage is contained, it's not, okay.
Yeah, it's underground. It's collected by pipes as development's starting to occur out there in the west part of DeSoto. An advantage, right, for those who are interested is property owners who are interested in developing, or they want to tie into a public sewer because they've got a lateral field or some other private system that, right, takes up your property and has its own issues. This suddenly provides options to some of those property owners that are at or higher elevation than this pump station. If they want to be annexed, that the city can provide services. If you want to develop, this suddenly provides a lot more options going forward for how those properties might be used and what kind of uses can be supported. And DeSoto has been, if you follow them, their master plan, their development process over the last few years, they've really been trying to explain some of these constraints for this part of the county, and what infrastructure you need, right, to support some of the growth that's starting to occur and what may occur in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, just going to check, are there any other public comments that we're aware of?
Catherine has her hand raised again. Did you want to allow her to
You
speak?
can close the public comments. Oh,
Catherine has her hand raised again. Would you like to allow Catherine Diaz to speak again?
yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Catherine Diaz again. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak again. Just another quick question that just kind of came up is, if there is like a high probability of, maybe like a pipe bursting or anything like that. I'm not familiar with, these types of stations either. So I'm just very curious if that were to happen. For me and my home, we have, well water and private sanitary, I can't remember what the word is, but so I'm just kind of, is there a probability that something could go wrong and that it could eventually affect my home?
Randy Gordon, BHC. I will say this particular facility they're using a new thing. So from where the pipes flow into the pump station is not pressurized, right? It's gravity. So a leak isn't going to create a giant fountain, right? Once the pumps are transporting that to the treatment plant, that is pressurized. So that would be something where you'd worry. The nice thing about this particular project, and they've started what we call a force main, but that's really the pipe that carries what the pumps are pumping into. Normally we'd use pieces of pipe, we join them together, they'd have a joint every 20 feet. This one, they're actually fusing it together so it's continuous when they're done. It's welded pipe together, so it actually makes for a much lower likelihood that you're going to get those kinds of breaks over time. And the other thing is, especially from Ms. Diaz's location, that goes east, kind of paralleling the edge of K-10 highway away from her. And so there's quite a bit of distance. It'll go from here over to Sunflower Road. A new gravity sewer is being designed and will be built, go north up to where the city's treatment plant is, closer to the river. So it's going to be pumping to the east. Our pump station is as close as I think it's going to get to her property. So that should be a very low risk to her over time. And the city has monitoring on this so that they can tell at times if they have some type of a break. And it's very visible right along K-10 highway. So that will help as well. Just for monitoring, just in case.
One follow-up question. I assume this station will have a backup generator on it, so if power's lost, we don't overflow the station?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And just so property owners don't worry, those are programmed to come on once a week or once a month. And it's just to make sure they're still working. It doesn't mean that the power went out and they need to worry about the pumps not keeping up. That's really just to make sure everything's working fine. But I can tell you, sometimes people get a little concerned. So I don't want them to be concerned for that reason.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, Sean Penley, County Planning Staff. I'll also just mention, if there are any additional questions from the public, they can certainly contact the county planning staff, and we would be happy to relay the applicant contact information. If they want to have specific questions, we'd be happy to do that as well. So anybody can contact our office, the main phone number, or the planning email online.
Yeah. And she had about a minute and a half left on her original. So I was like,
That's no
I
problem.
would
Yeah.
I'd much rather hear and know than to have to
Yeah.
go back
We're
and
happy to-
forth. So
Happy to
but
answer
thank
this
you
question. We know
for letting us
future-
know.
Future reference, we could certainly, anybody can contact our office and we could put them in touch with the applicant or the city.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So we're good then? Okay. I think at this point, we can close the public comments. And then is there any other discussion among the board members that need to, okay, no, looks like we're good there. Recommendations or the motion?
Terry Atwell, I move to approve a special permit for a sanitary sewer pump station for the city of DeSoto for the reasons and subject to the stipulations listed in the staff report with revisions to stipulations number 2 and 8 as noted by staff.
Have a second?
Roger Spears, I'll second.
Can we take a vote?
Jeff Huff,
Aye.
Craig Connell,
Aye.
Terry Atwell,
Aye.
Donna Getzman,
Aye.
Bob Paulson,
Aye.
and
Aye.
Roger Spears.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. The county commissioners meeting date and location?
Yes, so this application will go to the Board of County Commissioners on March 21st, 9:30 a.m., 111 South Cherry, here in this room. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Is there any other business that we need to bring before the board tonight?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Jay Leipzig, just a brief reminder about our joint zoning board planning commission meeting on next Tuesday evening. We'll have a light dinner at 5:30 and that the agenda will actually start at 6 p.m. And that's downstairs in this building at 111 South Cherry. And we look forward to having you.
All right, very good. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Donna Getzman, I move to adjourn.
Greg Connell, second.
All approve?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh, okay, we got the final aye. There we go. Meeting is adjourned.